What's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegas back with you. It's Monday night. That means it is time for Tropics Watch. Couple of things that we are watching that we're going to break down in this video. Post in the comments where you're tuning in from. We have an expansive show tonight. First, we're going to be talking about what's going on in the Carolinas with potential Tropical Cyclone 8. Now, the deal with this is it's not going to become a named storm because the center is over land. We're going to break down some of the definitions with that in just 1 second. The deal with this, it's all impact. We were talking about this last week as well. The next thing is we have Gordon out there. We're not going to touch on Gordon. It is barely a tropical system at this point. It's in the middle of the Atlantic. We don't care about that. We like it where it's at, but certainly going to be an issue for just the fish as it tries to be strengthened into a tropical storm again. The next thing is going to be this potential thing in the Caribbean as we flip the page into next week and then really get into October. We're going to talk all about that. If you're with us for last week's live chat on Tropics Watch Live, we had our newest member of the News 6 Pinpoint Weather Team, David Nazario, meteorologist David Nazario, and we were looking at some of the long-range stuff that shows that we're likely going to get that uptick, that like the peak of hurricane season is going to be delayed by about 6 weeks, and the end of September to October could be the new August to September. So we'll get all into that. First and foremost, I do want to talk about what's going on in the Carolinas right now. Again, this is not going to have a name. This is not a tropical system. Long story short, it has fronts with it, so it is not getting its energy from the warmth of the water alone. It is pulling from the difference in temperature and pressure, so that would make it scientifically, meteorologically, what we call a baroclinic low, kind of like a nor'easter. What the issue is here is it doesn't matter because it's still impacting the Carolinas the same as if it was tropical or non-tropical. We have this fire hose. We never like to see that coming in just south of Jacksonville and into Wilmington, and there's been some big-time rain. We'll take a look at that in just 1 second. We've also had at least one tornado warning. Looks like a couple of tornado warnings there coming through Emerald Isle and then pushing inland. There are no warnings now as these kind of supercellular thunderstorms move in off of the Atlantic and continue to pound eastern North Carolina, and then inland as we get towards the mountains. I-85 up around Charlotte, I-77, Concord, Rock Hill. We are getting that super heavy rain as well going forward, and we will watch that continue to go in, potentially bringing a flash flood threat to parts of the inland areas of Tennessee and into parts of North Carolina. And we're going to continue to watch that slide right on through. So again, post in the comments where you're tuning in from. If you want to stay up on all things tropics, you know the drill. This shameless plug. Hit that subscribe button. Love this growing weather community that we bounce ideas off of and talk about the weather. All of these boxes you see here are flash flood warnings that are popping up tonight. So just keep that in mind as well, that we have some big-time rain already obviously ongoing, and that is something that is going to continue. I'm going to move along into the show here. Let me get back to the other weather computer. I want to take this future radar out forward. So here is 9 o'clock tonight, about an hour from now, and this is going to continue to spiral in. So you still see the super heavy rain that's going to lift up towards Cape Hatteras, into the Outer Banks, lifting up into Virginia Beach, and then finally fizzling out. There's tomorrow at 9 o'clock with just a couple of scattered thunderstorms left to be around. But nonetheless, the main deal with this disturbance that is not going to get a name, and that's the biggest thing, is just going to continue to spiral and spiral and spiral until it kind of peters out. It's really going nowhere at this point. I want to show you what it's doing kind of on the water vapor imagery, and there you can clearly see that the center of this thing is already into central North Carolina, so development chances are now 0 with it. I mean, it didn't matter if it was going to become meteorologically tropical. And by the way, the tropical definition, there's certainly semantics, but it's important, even though the impacts are the same, whether this is quote unquote just a disturbance or nor'easter like thing, or a tropical system, all the impacts are the same. The deal with this is that it didn't have a well-defined center. It wasn't gaining its strength from the warm Atlantic waters, and we were watching this kind of bubble up, and it never really pulled itself together. I mean, again, thankfully or not thankfully, it's still bringing the same impact, so it really doesn't matter what it did or not. So as expected, this is hot off the press here. What we did have, that orange blob right off the Carolina coast, it is gone now due to the fact that it has a 0% shot of developing because it is now over the relatively warmer water of the Atlantic, it's over land, I should say, and now its development chances are over. So let's see here. A lot of people coming in from North Carolina tonight. I hope you're staying safe. Gusty and rainy in central North Carolina. Thank you for the comment, my friend. Western North Carolina, raining good right now, but it's not going to make the dead trees grow. That's for sure. We were talking earlier about Gordon. There is Gordon. It's trying to fire up some more thunderstorms. Its center is like out here. It's been plagued with wind shear for a lot of its life, but that is now Tropical Depression Gordon, so that we are watching out in the middle of the central Atlantic. We've been talking about, and if you were with us on the live stream, we showed a lot of ensembles last week. And if you've been watching the channel, ensembles are essentially, it's one model, and then there are different members of that model. There's different initial conditions put into them so that we can get a wide range of outcomes rather than a point forecast. So everybody put in a thumbs up or give me a thumbs up if we are doing the right thing and following the ensembles at this stage in the game and not looking at crazy runs of the GFS or the Euro or anything like that, because those are not going to have any idea of what is going on at this stage of the game. We're talking about potential activity in the Western Caribbean, Southern Gulf of Mexico coming our way as we get into September 25th-ish, give or take. So that's still 9-ish, 10-ish days away. So again, those models are not going to really know a ton of what's going on right now, but that's going to be the main thing that we're watching. There's also going to be potentially something coming off of the African coastline in the main development region. So whenever I was talking about before, October is like the new September, we really think that the peak of this thing is going to be delayed there. We've talked at length about some of the reasons, some of the theories, hypotheses of what has been holding the Atlantic back. We think that some of that is going away, unfortunately. I wish that it would hold on for just one more month until we get out of the climatological area where it is good for these tropical systems to develop. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case, we don't think. So that's what we're going to be watching further down the line. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull up some ensembles that we were kind of showing you last week, and I'm going to give you the update on what they're showing. And these are out there everywhere. Again, it's going to be extremely important to watch what the sources are that you are kind of consuming your weather information, because there's going to be a lot of people sharing just point-blank runs with no context. I've seen it already. What you want to be looking at, again, is the ensembles, and we're watching these load through here, and then I'm going to show you what we're looking at. I'll pull over what we're looking at here. This is going to be on weathernerds.com, and I'm going out the 240 hours. It's complete run here of the European ensembles. And notice as we get towards the 23rd, there's a little something trying to pop here. All of these L's don't represent a bunch of storms. That would be insane. But all of those L's represent what each different ensemble member thinks could be a potential solution to a scenario going forward. So we're going to take all this out, and you're going to see here that you're going to have lines and L's and all that stuff going every which way. So we're not going to be able to gauge, because we don't know when or if something's going to develop. For one, it looks likely that something will. But then it's going to be in time with what is the current steering pattern. Now, the one thing, once we start to get into the latter stages of September and October, we start to bring in another piece of the steering puzzle, and that is going to be these dips in the jet stream. these upper troughs, they are known for lifting things out of the Caribbean. That's why, as we typically anyway get deeper into the hurricane season, the East Coast threat more often than not goes down because you start to get those cold fronts that sweep things out at sea. It could be a little bit different this year. But you also have these dips in the jet stream coming out of the Rockies, and sometimes, more often than not, late September and through October, it snatches these disturbances, lifts them up out of the Western Caribbean, and then impacts the Eastern Gulf of Mexico. So that's certainly what the European solution wants here. Let me take this full for you, and you'll notice that there are some members that go towards the Bay of Campeche. So again, we've highlighted the reason why, and we're going to take a closer look at that reason why. You know me if you've been following the channel, and if this is your first time that you found us, post in the comments if you're a first-time finder, first-time viewer, and hit that subscribe button if you are enjoying the conversation that we're having. We always talk about that models obviously take them with a grain of salt at this stage of the game, but when there is a larger feature that is coming into play to help to act as a catalyst to focus something, that's whenever, the antenna goes up, and then these ensembles become a little more credible to tell the weather story here, to tell what is going on and what could potentially happen in a given spot. So while we can't narrow down, okay, is this going to Cuba? Is this going to the Bahamas? Is this going to the Yucatan? Is this going to Florida? You got to develop a storm first, but you can say with some likelihood that there's going to be at least a cluster of thunderstorms in the Western Caribbean, Eastern Gulf that is going to try to develop as we move into the 24th, 25th, 26th timeline, and then lift itself up into the Eastern Gulf or extreme Southwest Atlantic. So those are going to be the same thing. Some of the same things that we're watching. So those are the European. Let me go to the GFS ensembles here. Same map, different thing. And the GFS, as it has been a little more bullish, developing something in the extreme Western Caribbean and then lifting it back up into that area. And that is why, again, these areas that you see right here are highlighted by the Climate Prediction Center. So again, a couple of things coming in play. I want to show you something else. I have to go back to the other website that I often show you. It's going to be on Tropical Tidbits, and I'm going to show you the reason why. What we believe anyway. Let me change the region here. Got to go back to the world view to show you the Madden-Julian oscillation. You guys know that that's what we use a lot to track looking ahead 2 weeks in the tropics. And oh yeah, just looked at the latest thing, so I'm going to show you this. Let me pull this back over. My windows are all out of whack, but you get the picture. This is going to be through September 23rd. So what we're basically looking at here's the United States, kind of right in the middle of your screen. Green represents rising motion. So when air is rising, it cools, condenses, it forms clouds and thunderstorms, and then we could, given the other ingredients that are available in the surface and mid levels, we could get a tropical system. So again, this isn't a storm per se. This is a mechanism to force up storms. And as we take a look through September 30th, look at all the green. Now this is the anomaly here. So we are I always have trouble saying I always say anonymous, anomalous rising motion, if you will. Now this would suggest here when we get these Central American gyre features where you get this semi-permanent area of low pressure. It happens at the beginning of the season and then towards the end of the season. We might focus that first go around into the Eastern Pacific. So you see that green bullseye there. But then rising motion kind of takes over the entire Atlantic there going to the end of September. It pipes down a little bit into October. And then we still have to deal with maybe some stuff rolling off of Africa through October 14th. And then we get the sinking air back. So we could see a little bit of a flurry. That's a great question. How can we help you? I don't know what. I do need some help. That's going to be the question, because typically we see the Cabo Verde season shut down as we get into the latter stages of September and especially October. But because of the way the monsoon trough is oriented, the warmer upper atmosphere, it's going to be interesting to see if that season can continue. Hopefully that's not the case, although the Climate Prediction Center thinks it does by highlighting this through the first part of October. So there's going to be a lot to watch and a lot to unfold and a lot to unpack really over the next 6 weeks. What is today? Today is the 16th. 6 weeks or 4 weeks gets us to the middle of October. I would say probably the next 5 weeks, starting next week. So I think there might be a 4-week flurry. Hope it's not 4-month flurry of if the season is going to get going. That will be its window because of the some of the reasons we talked about last week. That big area. Record-breaking area of high pressure over Greenland. Again, all of this is good. Like, this is a good thing that I don't think the upper end of those hyperactive forecasts, certainly we're way behind those. So that's good there. But nonetheless, we're going to be watching that closely, and it's going to be a very interesting science project and a homework assignment for all of us watching going forward how the rest of this plays out. That's why I like the weather so much, because you're always learning. Certainly you saw everything out there with the forecasts that thankfully are not going to come into fruition. Colleen, great to see you as well. Hope you are doing well. Good to see you again in Houston, April. I appreciate that. Good to see you on the live stream again. My sanity mainly, April. No, but thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. And yeah, a lot of people tuning in from the Texas. See, that's what I mean. My sanity. I'm talking about. I'm looking at someone from Texas, our friend Houston Media HD, and I meant to say a lot of people tuning in from North Carolina as we are getting that super heavy rain. If you are tuning in, we'll go back to that weather computer real quick and just show you one last look here, one last go around of that system. That is the fire hose that we're watching. So again, that's going to be a heads up in Jacksonville. There's likely already flooding going on. Jacksonville, North Carolina, that is, into Greenville, into Raleigh, Fayetteville, and then the super, super heavy rains pushing closer to the mountains right now. I-77, tons of heavy rain. Also watching for a severe weather threat right and through here. We've already had a couple of tornado warnings just north of Jacksonville. You see it right there. And then this fire hose is what concerns me all the time. Anytime you get that kind of setup, flash flooding is imminent, or it just adds insult to injury there. So that is what we are going to watch. Alrighty, guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you have not done so already, click orlando.com/newsletters. You can sign up for the Tropics Watch newsletter. That already came out today and kind of broke down in detail all that stuff that we just talked about. Gregory, I definitely would not call it over yet, so I don't know who said that. I hope it's over, but when you see something like this, and these are the ensembles again, something lifting up out of the Caribbean, and I do think that hurricane season is going to roll. I mean, it officially goes through November. Typically we see things backing off, but there is indications that it's still going to be a pretty active November in the Caribbean. And anytime you get a dip in the jet stream coming out of the Rockies, coming out of off the U.S. mainland, it snatches those things up and lifts them up. So I would put anybody from Louisiana east kind of under the gun. And then certainly even for the next couple of weeks, I mean, here's the thing. Texas is even still in play there. Some of those members want to take it towards the Bay of Campeche. Again, if something does develop here, again, I showed you where the MJO is, and that would make it kind of a likelihood. At least I think we're going to get something. The strength still yet to be determined, of course. The location still yet to be determined, but somewhere in the Western Caribbean, Eastern Gulf, we're going to be watching that next week and through the start of October. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Really appreciate it. If you liked and enjoyed the conversation we had tonight, hit that subscribe button for me, and we will catch you next Monday or as needed. Again, we put out long-form content a lot during the week, so look for that if you're interested. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you next time.